Chapter 4 Polo Explains. It was a timely warning because Terry now drove the Caraway at a furious pace. Not dangerously, Terry obviously was a very good driver, but the speedometer needle spun to nearly 70 miles an hour on straight stretches of road and when the vehicle zoomed around open bends. Fortunately, they soon reached a speed limit zone and Terry slowed the Caraway. "Feel better now, laddie?" Polo asked quietly. Terry nodded and grinned at Clapper, who had thoroughly enjoyed the speeding. "All right, Clapper?" "Fine, thanks. Why did you do that?" "The name Orsini always wakes me up. It does things to me." "Oh, I see," said Clapper, who didn't, but was now resigned to being told things he didn't understand. "The Orsinis are a circus family," said Terry. "They're 4 sons. 2 are about the same age as you and Joey. The other 2 are much older. One is married, but the other wants to marry my Rosa." "Oh," said Clapper again, then was silent. He couldn't find words to comment upon this information and didn't want to say anything to upset the temperamental Terry. "Who is Rosa?" Joey plunged in with a direct question he had been wanting to ask for some time. "The finest, most beautiful high trapeze artist in all the world," said Terry dreamily. "You've heard of the 3 flying toros, of course." Oh, yes, of course." Joey hadn't, but guessed they must be a famous circus act. He could hardly be blamed for not knowing them, not having had much opportunity to visit a circus, but it seemed more polite to say he had. "The Flying Toros are Rosa and her 2 cousins," Terry continued. "They belong to a famous circus family who have been trapeze artists for many generations. The Toros, like the Orsinis and many other circus families, don't usually marry people outside the circus life." "It's a tradition," said Polo. "You understand what is meant by tradition?" "Having to do something because it's always been done," said Clapper. "Like standing out when the national anthem is played, or crossing your fingers when you walk under a ladder." Polo chuckled. "The first is tradition. The second is superstition, which means believing in bad luck." "That could be a tradition too," said Terry. "Circus people are often very superstitious." "Do you mean they think it's bad luck to marry someone who isn't in the circus?" Joey asked. "There are some who think like that," Terry admitted. "But mostly it's tradition." "And good business," Polo added. "What has business got to do with it?" Clapper asked. "Circus business is a very special sort of business. Real circus people are born to it. They begin learning almost before they learn to walk. It takes many, many years to become a skilled circus performer, so it isn't easy for an outsider to become a circus artist unless he learns to build an act which appears in theaters and places other than a circus," Polo explained. "But you're a magician," said Clapper. "You don't have to do your act only in a circus, do you?" "No, but to be trained in a circus is the most wonderful experience a performer can have." "Are the Orsinis magicians too?" "No," Terry replied. "They're big cats." "Pardon?" Clapper looked surprised. "Cats, big cats. They train lions and tigers." "One of their aunts is in snakes," said Polo. "You mean she trains snakes?" Polo nodded. "And alligators." "An uncle of the Orsinis has a flea circus," said Terry scornfully. "They're an animal family, but they have been circus people for maybe 10 generations." "I thought you said Rosa was your granddaughter," said Joey to Polo. "Yes, she is. My wife died long ago, but my son grew up in the circus," said Polo. "He married one of the Toro ladies, and they had a daughter, Rosa. Rosa was trained in trapeze work from a tiny girl. My son was killed when a trapeze broke during a performance in Belgium. Rosa was brought up by the Toros. So now you have the story." "Except for Terry," said Joey. "Terry is the son of a clown, the grandson of a clown, and the great-grandson of a clown," Terry interrupted. "But I'm the failure of the family. I'm too happy-go-lucky, too light-hearted to be a clown." "But clowns are funny people," said Clapper. "Clowns are the happiest-go-luckiest and comical of all the acts I've ever seen in a circus. Or is that something else I don't understand?" "You worry too much about not understanding everything, laddie," said Polo. "If you could understand everything, then you'd be the cleverest boy in all the world. Yes, of course clowns are funny people. To be funny is their job, but to be funny, you must be serious. I'm like Clapper, said Joey with a rueful smile. I don't understand that either. A really successful clown is a serious, clever, and highly skilled artist, Polo explained patiently. It's very hard work to make people laugh, work that needs years and years of practice, a deep study of human nature, and great concentration. These are serious things. To make people laugh, you have to learn what sort of things make them laugh. When you watch clowns in a circus ring, perhaps they appear to be tumbling around, playing tricks on each other, or performing a funny act. It all looks very happy and carefree, as if they're doing everything just for the fun of it. And so they are. But they're doing it for your fun. Everything they do is practiced and timed and rehearsed over and over again. Every time they stumble, every time they get sloshed with water, every time they seem to get into a hopeless tangle which makes you roar with laughter. All is carefully thought out, then practiced until it's perfect. Oh yes, indeed, laddie. To be really funny is very hard and serious work. And all the clowns are wonderful actors. And that's why I'm a failure, said Charlie gloomily. Nonsense, Polo snapped. Just because you don't succeed in one thing doesn't mean you cannot succeed in another. Terry had splendid hands. Polo splayed his hands in front of the boys. Natural hands for a magician, like mine. That is important. Also, he has a talent for making magic. He was learning well as my assistant. He has performed tricks with me since he was younger than you boys. In this country, we may not use a very young person in an act, but in other countries, this is allowed. So, Terry has considerable practice. One day I shall retire, and Terry will take over from me. Then, you really haven't got a problem, said Joey. Terry will be in the circus and Rosa will marry him after all. That's right, Clapper agreed. All you've got to do is retire and let Terry take over your act. Last year in Germany, France, Holland, and Sweden, we performed the act with Terry doing several of the tricks. But in Sweden, we met Rosa again. They've known each other since they were children, but hadn't met for many years. That's how it is with circus acts. Sometimes you tour with the same show for a long time. Then the various acts split up and join other circuses in different parts of the world, or perform solo acts in theaters and nightclubs and on television. But Rosa and Terry met again in Sweden, and bingo bango, Terry was suddenly a young man in love. From that time he couldn't concentrate. He tries until he's nearly exhausted, but the more he tries, the more he worries. And the more he worries, the more he fails. The more he fails, the less confidence he has in himself. Lummy! Clapper exclaimed. He's in a proper state, isn't he? But when you say a person has less confidence, does it mean he's nervous? Clapper glared defiantly at Joey. Well, so it's a silly question, but I get mixed up with different words. We can't all be walking dictionaries. What did I say to deserve that? Joey looked surprised. Nothing. You don't need to, Clapper retorted resentfully. You've got that superior look on your face, as if you're pitying me. Don't be daft, you're imagining it. Anyway, I think it's a good question because I get a bit mixed up myself, Joey admitted. The trouble is, said Polo slowly, that human beings are not simple and easy to understand. When I plan a new trick, I can decide exactly how it's going to work. I practice it step by step until it's perfect. I've been performing magic tricks for years and years, so I can keep calm and cool and concentrate on performing the trick. But when you're young, you can't help wondering about whether you'll be able to do it or not, and perhaps your hands tremble and you fumble the trick, and then it fails. This is what is happening to Terry. He's so anxious to succeed, not only because he wants to perform the tricks perfectly, but because he wants to succeed in his own act in the circus for Rosa's sake. And he's worrying about the Orsinis too, said Joey. Are the Orsinis and the three flying toros performing in the same circus? Polo nodded. Both acts are booked and tour in the same circus for a season in England. The circus visits this district next week. The circus boss is an old friend of mine, and I'm sure he would give Terry a chance to perform his act. That is why we're camped in a private wood, where we can practice from morning until night. But Terry is so excited at the prospect of seeing Rosa again, and so eager to do well, that each day he grows more nervous. They had been carrying on this conversation with Polo sitting in the back of the carrowet and the boys in the driving cab next to Terry. Polo now said casually, "Not much further to go, eh, Terry?" "No, not far. Why?" "Slow down a little. I want the boys to help me change the gas cylinder." "Can't it wait?" "Yes, but we always forget. Better do it now." "All right." Terry slowed the vehicle. "Climb into the back," he said to Joey and Clapper. They climbed into the rear section and joined Polo, who was crouching over a metal cylinder. "I've changed it myself," Polo whispered, "but I want a private word with your laddies." "Secrets?" Clapper whispered eagerly. "Big secrets," Polo winked. "There's one special trick I taught Terry years ago. A sensational trick. It's called the Vanishing Boy. It needs a laddie of Joey's size. Clapper's a size too large, but he can help. This idea was in my mind when I asked if you both would like to help us. I haven't mentioned it to Terry, but if you can perfect this trick, I'm sure Terry will regain his confidence." "Is it more special than any other trick?" Joey asked. "Yes, I was going to ask that," Clapper added. "And why is it?" "Because Terry was the first boy to help me when I invented the trick," said Polo, speaking very quietly. He was about the same size as Joey then, but maybe a year younger. It was while working with me in the Vanishing Boy trick that he discovered his own ambition to become a magician. I'm sure we shall succeed if we use it now, but I can't do it without your assistance. So, can we explain this to your uncle? It might make them understand how important it is for you to help us." "Not to worry," said Clapper confidently. "We'll fix it, eh, Joey?" "Certainly we will," Joey agreed. "And if I know Smitty won't raise a fuss, especially if he can visit us when he drives down at the weekend." Joey stopped speaking as the carrowet halted. "Have you arrived?" Clapper looked through the rear window. "No, this is the main street near Auntie's house." "Postcards, Polo?" Terry called from the driving seat. "Ah, yes." Polo gave a quick wink at the boys. "Thanks, laddies," he whispered. "We'll have lots of fun, too." "Sooner you than me," said Clapper when Polo left them alone. He grinned at Joey. "Wonder how you're going to look when you've vanished. Do you think it'll hurt?" "I hope not," said Joey, suddenly wondering what he had let himself in for. End of chapter 4.